Hello, welcome to the broadcast. This is your host, Bishop Danny Elijah. I am founding bishop of Christ Eclectic Church and prophet, founder, and bishop. Thank you for tuning in to Life Network. I want to talk to you about something that's very pressing on my heart, um, and that I feel is a very vital message to share and teach. And let me give you the title of it and jump right in. Do we need religion? Do we need religion? Okay. And let me just turn this light on right quick. Excuse me. I know it was something else. Yeah. Do we need religion? If so, why do we need religion? Question is, do we need religion? If so, why do we need religion? Take the time to invite someone to this channel. If you're joining me on YouTube, if you're joining me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, share this, like it. This is going to be really good, and it's going to be a learning experience. Do we need religion? You can pause this, whether it's if you're doing it live, later go back, pause it, and have a group discussion around this. And ask the question, do we need religion? Why or why not? And see, if you're doing this at your church, do this as an open forum and just let the people discuss this freely. Okay, I want to encourage that. Let people freely discuss it. And if you're a pastor, let me say this to you. Stop being afraid of your people freely thinking and freely speaking. See, issues like this, do we need religion? Most Christians are afraid, and I've been there. They're afraid to say things that they really know in their heart they want to say or they believe, and they're afraid to say it in the context of the church or in the service or in a Bible study or because they're afraid they're going to get a lot of opposition from the pastor as well as other members. You need to get out of that kind of church. If you cannot freely express what you believe without being persecuted, attacked, or demeaned, or removed from your position, you need to leave. See, that hinders your growth right there. That's a spiritual growth hindrance. But here's what I want to encourage you to do. Get you a Bible study group. And let me say this again, and we're going to see this when we talk about religion. Host your Bible study group. You don't have to know a lot about the Bible. And whether it's the Bible, the Quran, and let me say this, whether it's any other books or any other religion you're part of, your freedom in God is to express truth or what you believe freely. Okay. Let me encourage you to do something. I'm going to encourage you to start a group, a book club, Bible study group, or whatever, and do things like this. If it's just once a month, if you did something once seasons throughout the year, and pose the question of why do we need religion? Why do we need religion? Do we need it? Why or why not? Okay. So I'm going to get right into it. And what I'm sharing, it may fill in information gaps that you may need in understanding. Okay. I have wrestled with this for a very long time. Years. Yeah. See, I went through a desert of my Christian growth during and after. Okay. And I struggled. I didn't struggle. Let me say this. I struggled more with my Christian faith and in the things that I believed and the things that I was being taught than I ever did with struggling financially, relationally, sexually, Those were minor compared to the many struggles and battles I was engaged in internally, mentally, because of my Christian faith. And so I share a lot of things of those struggles, because one of the things that happens when you start healing and when you are really free is you start talking about it. You start sharing it. Because what your mind has done is open up now to understanding why you went through what you went through. What was the triggers? What was the cause? What was the effect? You understand all that now. See, that became a part. That's a part of your healing, your growth and development. So when I look back and I realize that I was in bondage, man. I was really in bondage. Many of you who are watching this, you're in bondage as Christians. And I can only speak to those of you who are Christians because I have that experience. There are some who will not watch this. They will not watch nothing I produce. And many others they won't watch because they're in so much bondage. And they know it's a fear. There's some who are so fearful of going to hell. They fear that if they watch, read, or listen to anything else, because they've been taught this, if any man bring you any other gospel other one that you've heard from me, watch this, they fear they're going to go to hell. Listen to me. It's time for you to be free. Let me say this to you. It's time to be free. And I want to start with inviting you into this free manner of thinking by dealing with religion. And let me give you a background of why this was so pressing to me. So I left the church. I abandoned Christianity for a season. Okay. You don't know nothing about this level or the level of where God wants to take you until you've abandoned all. I heard it in the church, but they were not doing it. They think I'm abandoning all for the sake of Christ. No, you're not. No, you're not. You left your husband. You left your wife. Come on. You left the state. You dropped your job. You gave this up. You gave that, but you didn't give up your Christian faith. You didn't give up religion. So you didn't abandon all for the sake of Christ. Because when you get to the place where you abandon all, you stop hearing the voices that are dictating everything to you. You get in a moment of quietness. And I went through that season. You've got to go through that. Yeah, I'm telling some of you, you need to stop going to church for a season. Whether it's a year, 2 years, or 3 years, that's between you, God, and your own personal. Because, watch this. That's a part of your development. See, you say, well, you mean to tell me if you're a pastor of a church, you would tell some folk in your church stop coming to church for a year? Yeah. You say, what? Yeah. And watch this. I'm not going to get into details, but I don't believe you should go to church every Sunday. Okay? So I don't practice that. Watch this. Now, we're going to go into talking about religion in this. That's why I want to start this off, because some of you think you know my position already, but you really don't. Okay. Why am I saying this? Because, first of all, okay, I never knew how much bondage I was in until I was free. You don't realize how much bondage you're in or was in until you are free. You don't realize how clear the air is outside until you go out there and you can smell clearly. You don't enjoy freedom until you can compare it to bondage. You only know bondage, so you have nothing else to compare it to. Many of you grew up Christian. Many of you grew up Muslim. And when I hear that, when I say, well, how long have you been a Christian? Well, I've been a Christian all my life, and I went to church all my life. You know, we have those experiences, right? Well, how long have you not been a Christian? How long have you stopped as an adult, not children, as an adult, How long have you went without practicing your faith or your religion? Talk to me. Okay? Because then, see, I'm not talking about me debating you about your faith. I'm not talking about how much of the knowledge of scriptures we have. No, we're not dealing with none of that. Now we're dealing with a personal thing, a personal development thing, right? Then when we talk and we discuss, whether it's being Christian, whether it's Christianity, or whether it's the Bible, your mind is now free. You can see things that you normally would not have seen had you stayed engaged. And we're going to see this as a part of religion. So I want to start by getting you to understand some things on what religion is. In order to answer this question, we need to first ask, what is religion? And again, the question is, do we need religion? I'm going to tell you, everybody who left the church, everybody outside of the church, everybody who's anti-Christian, everybody who's anti-religion, they say, no, we don't need religion. Everybody who's not Muslim, they say we don't need religion. Everybody who's not a Jew, who don't fit in a category of a religious follower, they say we don't need religion. Right? Now, why? I'm going to give you an example of what it's like. It's like a man who goes to prison. And he does a crime, and he commits a crime. He's in prison for 5 years. He comes out, and they put the mic up to him and say, sir, do you think we need prisons and jails in America? And he says, no, we don't. It's horrible in there. He's free now, right? Right? He's free. Yes, I'm free. But do you know what he just said? You know what he just said? He's basically saying that we should let criminals roam free and do what they want to do and suffer no consequences and not stop them from becoming destructions to society. But why would he say that? You know why he said that? Huh? Because here's a man who did not take responsibility, first of all, for his own criminal activity. And second of all, who spent 5 years locked up, and he sees the whole world as that. If you put everybody, lock them all up, that's not the question. That doesn't mean when I ask you the question, do we need jails and prison? That means we're going to lock everybody up for anything. That happens. Don't get me wrong. That's like extreme injustice, or we could say injustice. The problem is, and we're going to see this when we discuss religion, people tend to go to the extreme with these things. People tend to do what this guy is doing when he gets out of jail and limit his experience, his hate, and his irresponsible lifestyle to everything that he judges to be right or wrong. See, a wise man comes out of prison. He says, you know, yes, we do need prisons. I was wrong for what I did. I killed this person. It was manslaughter. I got off on the charges. Well, 5 years. I don't know if 5 years, that's manslaughter charges, but I'm just giving an example anyway. But if he speaks and says, I take responsibility, then he would probably answer different. Yeah, we need prisons. Yeah, we need jails. Because I know if I was the same person I was 4-5 years ago, there would be 3 other people would be dead now. So here's my point. Okay. When you first come out of religion, you're full of anger. Let me be honest with you. When you first get set free, you hot. You just like, man. When you first stop being a Muslim, when you first stop being a Christian, when you first stop being a Jehovah's Witness, I've seen them all. They all get on YouTube. They all talk to people and tell why you shouldn't be a Muslim. The secrets of what goes on in Islam and these Islamic countries. Oh, I'm free now. Why you shouldn't be a Christian? Why you should? That's normal. See? But I guarantee you a year or a couple of years down the line, they're going to mellow down. And they're going to realize something. Okay? Yes, Those religion organizations had some bad, and maybe the one I was in. I remember I was working at a restaurant. I'm not going to say the name because then there are people watch this, but not giving details. But I was working at a restaurant and I had quit. And I was talking to somebody who had a career in it. And they said, well, Danny, that was the store you were at and how that store was managed. That's not all of it. Now, I never worked for that company ever before. That was the only store I only worked at. So it affected my judgment of the company at large until this young man said, I can't remember, it was a young man, older. I think it was an older guy. And he made me think, that's right. Now, in another company I worked for, I worked for the corporation and I worked for two private companies, two franchisees. And I could see that with that company as clear as day. That's not corporation. See, because I had a drunk owner that came in. I'm the manager of the restaurant. I'm running the restaurant. I know the ops manual. Like I'm skilled, certified. 2 companies I've been certified and trained in. Some of the best So I closed the store. First of all, it was late at night. Second of all, we were out of control. People were not coming in. I didn't have enough staff. I went by the operations manual to the T. It actually tells you the reasons you can close a store. Okay. I followed protocol. And this was a restaurant. They hired me and it was a mess. That's why they needed to hire me. The owner comes in drunk and goes off on me. I respectfully stood there, listened to him. And then when he finished, I said, sir, I follow protocol. Sir, I follow corporation rules and regulations. Okay. And I explained it all to him. And he looked, he dropped his head and said, okay, well, yeah. Okay, you're right. But you can't close my store, man. When you close my store, man, I lose money. You should be talking to your DM and the senior manager, not me, because they're running the store. Come to find out, the manager was a crook and a thief, stealing money, and they weren't properly managing that store. But anyway, okay. So here's my thought on it. See, your judgment of a religion or religion in general could have something to do with your experiences in that religion and your limited understanding of religion in a whole. And what I want to start with, I want to deal with understanding religion in a whole. Okay, not just Hebrew Israelite religion, not just Scientology, not just Christianity and its many denominations, Islam and its 3 denominations, Sunni, Sufi, and what's the other one? I forgot the other one, the third one. Sunni, Sufi, and I forgot the third one. But anyway, Hinduism, Buddhism, and we're not dealing with each of these different religions. Okay. We're not dealing with each of these different religions. We're dealing with religion in general, and this understanding will help us to understand all of them in the basic format. But we'll go beyond just understanding religious entities that are spiritual based or faith based. We're going to see religion is all around us. Okay. Okay. We're going to see religion. This word religion is only used in worship and concerning a deity. But if you define it and really look it up, you'll find it's a very general word and it has a broad meaning. Let's get right into it. Okay. It's Shiite. I'm sorry. Sunni, Shiite, Sufi. Let's get right into it. Do we need religion? Okay. Why or why not? The first thing, let's understand what is religion. Number one, the word religion comes from the Latin word religio. Cicero linked religio to the verb religere, meaning, I'm not sure if that's that's the correct pronunciation, but it's R-E-L-E-G-E-R-E. And it means to go over again. Okay, to go over again. Or to reread, suggesting a focus on careful consideration and reflection on divine matters. Okay. And you can find that at Google search and under religion. It also means meaning back or again. This is how it's broken down. Okay. Lactanus and Augustine concluded religio to the verb religiare. Okay, the same as Cicero, meaning to bind fast, to tie back, connection. Okay. Now, sometimes in all my studies, I found that you can have two, what may seem to be opposing viewpoints that may be different. But when you study it, you'll find out that when you bring them together, they're nothing more than either a variation of a different language and translation or synonymous words that could mean the same or the concepts the same. So we can see this with Lactantius, Augustine, and Cicero. Okay. And this is where we're going to come to an understanding of this. The modern English definition. Let me pull it up. And here is the modern English Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of religion. And I think this is where we're going to jumpstart this and what we just heard, the Latin understanding of the word religion and how it is influenced by this. One, the word religion first means, okay, a personal set or institutionalized system. Notice the word system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. Okay. Two, has two meanings: the service and worship of God or the supernatural, commitment or devotion to religious faith or observance. Okay. Three, cause, principles, a cause, principle, or system of beliefs held to with adder and faith. And three, archaic, scripturally conformed. Now, I like this definition of Merriam-Webster dictionary, which they have drawn this from. You can see Cicero's definition in there, or his understanding, not his definition. You can see what Lactantius. And what does that mean? Let me give an example with the word religio being connected to religiare, meaning connection. The first definition is a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. So that personal set of systems connects you to something. That's the concept. Not yet we're talking about a God, a deity, but it connects you to something. Give an example. And I want you to see this broad picture when we talk about religion. Okay. You believe that when you go to work, you're going to get a check at the end of the week, right? What connects you to be able to get a check at the end of the week? You're connected to, one, a time. You have to be to that place at a certain time, connecting you. Two, you are bound to that employment in order to get that paycheck. So you have to be at work on time. You have to do this duty. You have to do a set of duties. So when we talk about connection, you connect to this company. You bound yourself to this company. You commit to this company. You have faith in this company. The fact that you go on to work every day and you ain't seen no money, but you believe they're going to pay you. Nobody starts a company and they know everything about the company and the history of the company enough to know that they're guaranteed to get paid. There are people who've been laid off, right? So in a sense, when you get up in the morning and you go to work, in a sense, you are operating as an institutionalized connection to something. You are consistent every day to be there at a certain time, consistent every day to do a certain job. That is religio or religiaire. That's what they're talking about here in the broad sense. And this is important to understand when we get to talk about religion. This part is important to understand. Number 2, it says the service and worship of God or the supernatural. Some translations say of a God or a deity. Okay. Now this second one is when you take that principle of the first one and you attribute that to a worship, to the worship of a God or deity. Okay. Now, it's important that you separate these two. And that's why I want you to see the Webster's Dictionary of this. The third one is a cause, principle, or system of beliefs held to with ardor and faith. Notice the first one and the third one has nothing to do with a God. It has nothing to do with a church. It has nothing to do with the traditional sense of religion. So the first thing I want you to understand when we ask the question, do we need religion? Don't think of the question in the sense of, do we need a church? Do we need Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism? Do we need the Abrahamic faiths? Do we need Hebrew Israelites? Don't think on that level when asking this question, do we need religion? Because just like I gave you my experience of, it was that store I was working at, doesn't mean that all stores are bad. Did you get that? So now when you get this understanding, we're going to branch out and look at those different variations of religions, as we call them. Some have gone to say they're called more like faiths. And I can agree to call them faiths than to say they are religions, but they're more like faiths. But there are other things that are religions. Government and politics is a religion. You never seen it that way. It fits into this definition. Watch this. It fits into being, watch this, the first one, institutionalized system. That's one. The third one, a cause, principle, or system or beliefs. Watch this. This government operates on cause, principle, and systems of beliefs. Did you get that? Okay. Now, even the second one, the service and worship of God or the supernatural, we're going to look at money is an American God. There is a system that says, here's how you make money. Here's what you do with the money. Here's what you got to do with the money. Here's what you can't do with the money. Here's how money is going to be. We trade money. There are laws, principles. There are systems in place for money. All that is locked into the word religion. Now I'm going to show you something here. Okay. Can a religion be absent of God? Absolutely yes. The presence of a God or deity is not what makes a religion a religion. Let me prove it. Okay. Did you all know that atheism is a religious entity? They actually have groups and societies for atheists. They get together and do things together. Yeah. They don't believe in a God. Listen to me. But when you talk to them, they have a systematic way to prove to you that why they don't believe in a God, what caused them not to believe in a God, and the facts or the evidence that God don't exist. But they have a systematic way. You can't conclude something without having a system that leads up to that conclusion. You can't live by something without having a system that affects or controls your lifestyle. That in and of itself is a religion. Now, here's what a religion is not. If you randomly do something, I get up in the morning, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to just do anything. And you do that all the time with everything. You don't have a religion. See what I'm saying? You have a life, you don't have a religion. And we're gonna see some things of the benefits of religion. Now, let me say this from the beginning. God doesn't require us to have religion, but I'm going to show you what he does require of you and the benefits and disadvantages of religion. Let's get right into it, right? What makes a religion is not a deity, but the practices of rituals, rites, rules, and the commitment of the practitioners. Let me read that again. What makes a religion is not a deity, but the practices of rituals, rites, rules, and the commitment of the practitioners. Did you get that? This is why worship is religion. Worship connects to a deity, which explains why a deity is defined as part of a religion. So, in other words, a religion can be with or without a deity. God is not the factor of what a religion is. Okay? I remember going to, in my early years when I was younger, I went to Amway when I was in my 20s. But before Amway, there was the Word of Faith movement. When I crossed over from the Pentecostal to the Word of Faith, they stopped wearing suits. I mean, robes. They were wearing suits. And I remember seeing people like Tony Robbins and Les Brown and motivational speakers, and they would be in a pulpit. And I'm young, in my late teens, and it was weird to me seeing these guys because I was like, they look like preachers. And then when I started seeing politicians in my early teens, I grew up watching Fred Price and Jimmy Swaggart, Jim Baker, and those preachers, they never wore robes. They preached with nice suits, right? And my brain, when I was in my early teens, was confused, like, wait a minute. Are they preachers? Talking about Les Brown and Tony Robbins and other motivational speakers. And I started listening and noticing they don't never mention God or Jesus. I'm just saying, when I was young, right? Well, they look just like preachers to me. As I got older, I went to an Amway meeting. And I think before I went to an Amway meeting, I went to an Amway and Quick Start meetings later, but I worked for Kirby. And if you ever worked for Kirby or been to a Kirby meeting, you know that it's like a church service. The morning sessions that we had, we go to every morning, and they clapping, they dancing, they got the music going, and they're and they cheer each other on, and then they have a program that they do, and then you go out and do your routes. They do this program for about 30 to 40 minutes, and it's like they have a morning church session. God or Jesus ain't mentioned. Buddha, Muhammad, nobody is praying to any God or deity. When I went to Amway meetings, the same thing. Now, were there Christians in there? Yeah, but I know there were Buddhists, Muslims. There were some of every other religions in there. Okay, there were some atheists most likely in there, but everybody in there having a service, you can call it a service, having worship, you can call it worship, around what? Money. To make money. No, listen to me. Went to Atlanta. Huge. This is probably the largest motivational event I went to. And guess who was there? Yes. Donald Trump was there. This was probably 10 years, probably 5. I don't think it was 10 years, but it was many years before Trump ran for president. Okay. And there was Donald Trump there. There was Tony Robbins there. There was the guy who wrote David Bach. He wrote Automatic Millionaire. And it was someone else there. But I went to see David Bach and Tony Robbins. That was the first time in my life I got to see Tony Robbins live. I said, I'm going. It was at the Atlanta Center, next to my mind. I'm sorry, I'll be having a lot on my mind. But it was in Atlanta, the largest event, packed place, all people everywhere. And I can't remember if either of them, any of them, ever said anything about God. Now, they may have, if I remember. But one thing I do know, they wasn't talking Jesus back in there. I don't think I ever heard anybody say Jesus. But man, it was a huge setting. And Tony Robbins events, if you ever been to him, he does them just like a church service. He tells everybody, get up and you clapping, and they have music, and he teaches the power behind it. The church does the same thing. Okay. And I don't recall God having anything to do with those meetings. Neither the beginning of the meeting or the purpose of the meeting nor the end of the meeting. Definitely not Donald Trump. He hitting on another man's wife. He tells a woman in the audience, I'm just sharing with you all what actually happened. I'm not attacking our president, whatever. But he literally told the woman, he said, you married? And she said, yeah. He said, come to my hotel. Your husband won't mind. Man. And the only reason I didn't get up and walk out, as many people started walking out, was because after him was Tony Robbins. And I'm sitting there going, oh, I wish Tony Robbins was coming up before this man. I can't. I'm the man. Like, anyway, I can tell you some other stuff. But anyway, he made a crude joke. And guess who they put on the Jumbotron laughing at it? I'm going to just say it this way. I'm not going to say her name. His pastor. Y'all know who that is. But anyway, I was shocked. I was like, what? Why would she be laughing at a perverted, crude joke like that? And it's like they purposely caught her. Like, bam, see, look at her. That's how it was. But anyway, I say that to say that they run these organizations. They run these businesses like a religion. They're not going to use the word religion. They don't want you to know that with the same concepts, principles, ideas, come on, that a church is governed, they're using the same. Listen to me. I can use these illustrations on and on a lot. I worked for Kirby. We went door to door, right? Just like Jehovah's Witnesses go door to door. I made my first sale in Orange, New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey, right down the street from the hospital, big apartment building. 3 days later, she canceled. It was like, oh God, they gave me the check, and the check bounced, or I think they canceled the check. It was a $300 and something check, and that was my bonus, my pay for. I sold the vacuum, and I was excited. And man, I was mad. I kind of knew she was going to cancel. Okay, I kind of knew it. But man, working for Kirby, it's the same thing like going to a church. Then going to Amway meetings, going to Quick Star meetings. I did Quick Star as a Quick Star representative, and we even had my coach. She would come and she would walk us through everything we had to do, and and it seems like everything when it comes to business is a system, just like a church or a religion. I mean, literally, you walk down the street, people walk up to you, giving you something, a brochure, a flyer, something, everything. You see billboards all over. So my point is, religion is a word used to signify a faith with a deity, a set of rules and worship, and rituals that are performed with religions. But in the broader sense, religion is anything that has systems, laws, principles, and they are designed to teach you, train you, and lead you. That's a religion. Now, with that broader thinking, just think of how you're controlled by religion right now. Most of you who are watching this, you're going to go on your lunch break, or you can't watch. You can't be on your phone while you're working. Why? There's a policy in place. There are rules. There are laws in your company that says you have a job to do. Although you can probably do your job and look on your phone, but oh, no. Why? There are principles. There's a system in place. That's religion. But we don't call those religion. We don't call none of that religion. So I'm doing this to break up a biased attack against religion in general, so that we can get a broader understanding of religion and answer this question. And I think some of y'all know where I'm going already. But watch this. Listen to this. Okay. If the root of religion is to go over, religio, which is also back or again, and to bind fast or tie back, meaning connection, then religion would be properly defined with the union of these two etymologies. You get that? So watch this. Let me pull this back up. Okay, did I? No, okay. I want you to see something here. No, it doesn't give you the let me type in here. Okay, let me type this in. Okay. Okay. This is what I want you to see. I don't want you to say it. Okay. That's what I want you to see. So you see where it says the word religion comes from the Latin religio, with an uncertain origin, but most likely from re and legere, to bind, meaning to tie fast. Okay. Now, you see it down here. It says religion, origin, Old French, and then Latin. Okay. Now watch this carefully. It has that meaning here, right? So this is a word that we can say is a modern word or a word that goes back to the Latin. It's not a biblical word in the sense the word is used in the Bible. I think it's one scripture. I think it's two scriptures. Okay. In the Bible using the word religion. Now, and that also gives us understanding of the Latin. That's another way you understand the Bible context, and understanding the Bible is understanding the etymology and the history of words. So when you see words like religion, it'll broaden your understanding of a word that's in a Latin word in the context of Greek. But we'll get to that at another time. Therefore, religion can be a systematic process. I want you to focus on that. Okay. And what makes a religion a systematic process? Which is something done again and again. This is what makes a ritual what it is. That's right. So going back to your job, I worked in a manufacturing company. Now, I had a good job. My job was, I love my job, but it wasn't ritualistic in the sense of the duties that I did was the constant same thing over and over. But there were others who worked on the machines, and you could stand there and watch them, and this is what they did. That's what they did. That was their job. You can watch the robot. There was a robot on several of the machines, and the robot would grab this, put it over there. Grab this, put it over there. That makes it being done again and again ritual. Ritual. So I want to broaden your understanding on religion. The simple definition of religion, here it is a system of rituals, laws that a person or persons commit to. Let me say it again. The simple definition of religion is a system of rituals and laws that a person or persons commit to. Okay. So we're going to build on that foundation. Then we're going to add a deity into that. We're going to add worship to that. We're going to add a church to that. We're going to add all the Abrahamic faiths to that. And we're going to see that we started with religion before we had religion. What? Yes. Man started with religion before religion existed. We had No, listen to this. In other words, when you look at the simple definition of a system of rituals, what man discovered in life is there are these laws in the universe that I have to abide by. Yeah, right? These laws govern me, and I can govern these laws. So in other words, if I go to sleep and I don't wake up, I'm dead. I'm not going to exist in this world. But if I go to sleep, I wake up. Now, there are certain things that are going to wake me up every day. Either the sun, because the sun is going to be consistent. It's going to ritualistically rise at a certain time every day. So I may wake up to the sun. I may get hungry and wake up. Or my body slept enough and my system may click and say it's time to wake up. Okay. That is a system built within you naturally. You get that? So when we talk about religion, we've got to look at it from this context, because where I'm going to go next is so important to answer this question. Okay. So before there was religion, there was religion. And that is man being built with a system within him. We have a system. The universe is built on a system. It's built with order and systematic processes. Did you get that? That's why science exists, and that's why they know all the information they know in science, because they can look at nature and they can study the system of nature. Okay? Here is understanding that basic principle, the pros and cons of religion. Okay. This is where we get into the gut. Okay. Religion in the extreme, has become the danger of religion. Let me say it again. Religion in the extreme has become the danger of religion. Okay. So anything that you do that is not in its proper use is called what? Abuse. When you abuse something, if I take this pen and I poke myself in the face with it, I'm abusing this pen and I'm abusing my face. It's not the purpose of this pen. It's not the purpose of my face to come in contact with this pen. That's abuse. So when you abuse religion, that becomes religion. So that's why I said we had religion before we had religion. Religion in the extreme became the danger of religion. This is religion by force. Watch this. With very little or no freedom. Did you get that? Now, okay, we can see this in a lot of ways. Okay, we can see this in many ways. Okay, I'll give you an example when we talk about colonialism. Okay, and I want to be careful to say this so people don't misunderstand me. Colonialism in its original form was not wrong. Our ancient ancestors, which are our Kemetic ancestors, okay, they are the ones who originated colonialism. Colonization was founded by the first people, not slavery. See, that's what y'all getting your mind mixed up. See, this is a perfect example. Slavery and colonization is different. But what we've seen in history is the perversion of colonization by adding slavery to it. Our first ancestors, the Nubian Kemetic people, they did not use slavery. The Exodus story is a lie concerning the Egyptians built the pyramids. That's a lie. I'm not getting into that in depth, but here's my point. Colonialism was about taking a system that we built here in Egypt around the world. That's why pyramids are all over the world. You can go on YouTube and see documentaries. I just if you hit me up and I'll send you that documentary, that link to that documentary on YouTube. And they show all over the world, from Brazil, all over South America, China. There are pyramids everywhere. And they're mysteries, but we know when you study, you'll find out that yes, the Egyptians traveled around the world. And this misconception they didn't have no means of traveling by water is a lie. Okay. There's a boat in, I think, the museum in France. I think it's in the museum in France. It's called the Ship of Khufu. They put it back together. They also found that they were able to collapse these ships, put them back together. They sailed the seas. They don't talk about that in history because it's a big, shh, don't say that. Watch this. They were master sailors. Did you hear me? But anyway, colonialism is an example of how something can be perverted yet pure in its original form. Because if you travel from Africa to South America, you better have a system. You better have a process. You better have rituals. You better have things well organized and in order. Because if you don't, you either ain't coming back or you ain't going to make it over there. You better have a system that says before you leave, we have check marks. You got to know this. You got to do this. You got to train in this. You got to build this. You got to do this way. They didn't just jump up and go do something. No. Give an example. If you went hiking, do you go hiking without having a checklist and a system and knowing how to use this and knowing how to do that and knowing how to use this and where to go here? And if you don't, you won't make it. So here's an example of colonialism is a perfect example. And you know all the ins and outs. A franchise came from the concepts of colonization. You go to Newark, you start a restaurant. You go to Atlanta, you start a restaurant. You want the food in Atlanta to taste just like the food in Newark. Because if they will come running to the food in Newark, they're going to love it in Atlanta. And if people come from Atlanta and decide to come to Newark, they're going to come to your restaurant because if it tastes good as the one in Atlanta, I want this one in Newark. I want the same thing. See, that's a system in place. You cannot have a franchise that's not systematic. The most successful businesses actually are systematic. Okay, they have a system in place of consistency. Now, why am I saying this? I'm trying to get you to understand the basic foundation of how religion works. Okay, what we're used to seeing is religion in the extreme. Okay, we are used to seeing religion by force with very little or no freedom. Colonization, we've seen that. We know that. Most of the churches, religions, whether it's Islam, Christianity, other religions, cults, very little or no freedom. And I want to commend and say this about Islam. What we see when we study Islam, it is not the same Islam as 100 years ago. Islam is one of the most progressive religions on the earth. Did you hear me? But America and other countries won't acknowledge that. Okay. All Muslims are not terrorists, and all of Islam does not fund, support, nor is terroristic organizations. Let's clear that up. Okay. We should not persecute Muslims or attack a Muslim or even have these biases about Muslim women or, you know, some of the best people I've ever fellowshiped with were Muslim. And I'm only saying this to show you how we look at things in everything, the extreme, and make that the standard. And that becomes problematic. People's lives are put on the line because of that. There are people who are dead because they were homosexual and they were attacked. They were Muslim and they were attacked. Listen to me. I know what that's like being a black man in this skin color. And I'll never forget one time I got out my car and I walked away and I had noticed something. This lady, she looked and saw me and locked her car. You know, and I honestly thought, oh, it dawned on me. I forgot I'm black. You see what I'm saying? I've seen people react to me a certain way that mystified me like, Why? And I had to scratch my head like, what did I do to them? No, you ain't do nothing to them. You're black. They don't trust black people. See? So you become a victim of other people's extreme thinking that this is everybody that's black. So you see how when we think of religion, we think the same way. We think religion is when I was in my cultic church and I grew up in that church all my life. That's all I know. That's religion. And they were abusive. We couldn't go nowhere. We couldn't wear certain clothes. We couldn't date. We couldn't go to the movies. The preacher would embarrass people and call people out and lock people indoors. All kinds of stuff that goes on in religion, right? That is extreme religion. Don't get me wrong. Huh? But that's not the full picture of religion. Now listen to this. When religion is done with freedom of the individual and proper balance, it can be beneficial to the adherents. Let me read it again. When religion is done with freedom of the individual and proper balance, it can be beneficial to the adherents. That's with freedom and balance. Now let's talk about how is that so. Keep in mind that what makes religion what it is not whether it's a god or a deity, not whether it's one of the Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, not whether it's a temple or church. That's not what makes it a religion. Okay? What makes it a religion is a system of rituals, rites or rules, and the commitment of the adherents or followers. That's what makes it a religion. Okay? So politics is a religion. Our government is a religion. I was just looking at, I went to check my voter registration. Let me show you something. And I think I've been a registered voter for the last 10 years or more. Right? Well, when I went in there and looked, it said what my party affiliation is. It asked the question of last time voted. It had a date. Okay? Active voter, yes. Right? That's a system. That information is locked into a system. Did you hear me? That's locked into a system of my political affiliation and my citizenship. See? And you can look at that in so many ways that I don't want to get into when we talk about politics. Okay? If you talk about business analysis and information about a business, you can get enough information to find out about a business and how it systematically operates, or your business, how to increase and grow your business through systems of marketing, systems of social media advertising, through systems of certain things that you can do and systematically draw clients. So this thing of a system is what makes the foundation of religion. Okay? What we're used to seeing is systems of religions, watch this, that are of a deity, extremism, and has followers who are extreme in what they believe. And we only categorize that as a religion. There are extreme politicians. There are extreme party affiliates. I'm trying to avoid from saying certain words. There are people who are extremely leftist, extremely right. They are extremely supporting their organization. We see it all the time. And they're so extreme. I have had people that attack me, and I didn't know why until I realized why. And that is, oh, they're extremely committed to this. I had a brother, he said, do you know I'm not going to say the name, the affiliation. He said, I'm a blank supporter. Oh, wow. That opened my mind as to why he anything I say, he opposed it. See, that's what religion does. That's extreme religion. Extreme religion locks you in a box of thinking that I don't give a what you say. This is what we believe, and this is what we're going to stay believing. You can show me that God exists in the trees, and you can show me that it's going to rain tomorrow and tell me I'm still not going to believe you because my religion says so. I had my boss one time said to me, I used to tell him about the chemtrails. And I come to work. I used to walk to work. Everybody else drive. So when I walk, I could see the clouds and the chemtrails clear. So I did a prediction. I said, in 3 days, it's going to rain. So I said, let me see how many days after it rains. So I did this for a while. And I predicted 3 days it's going to rain. So I'll go to work, and I told my boss, I said, it's going to rain in 3 days. I said, I'll give a day it's going to rain this such and such. He said, okay. Yeah. So I did it again, right? And then I said to them, how y'all think I know that? And you know what they said to me? They said, you watch the weather. I said, I don't even watch the news. I don't watch TV. I said, I work too much, too hard. And by the time I'm finished working, I'm tired. I don't even go home. I don't even barely want to look at my computer, my phone. I said, no. I said, you see those chemtrails there? Yeah, when they do that, 3 days later, it's going to rain. And I think my boss said something about, oh, you like my son. Y'all both are conspiracy theorists. Now watch this. See, this is an example of what I'm saying, right? You can have all the facts in line, and people are still going to categorize you and have a reason to be biased against you or for you. And I never said I'm a conspiracy theorist or I believe in aliens. I never said. It's just we're dealing with something that you yourself can go out there and see and then count the days. And yeah, because there's a chemistry. So I went to a gentleman who worked in the lab testing department. And he had degrees. He was skilled. He was a lead in this department. And what they do is they use actual chemicals. He had a degree in chemistry and all that. These are scum around skilled people. And I asked him about it. I said, is it possible it can make it rain, blah, 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 blah. And he said, with certain chemicals, yes. And under certain conditions, yes. He broke it down and said, okay. So in other words, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out, okay, these chemtrails are the same. But my point is, I was looked upon as, oh, yeah, you're a conspiracy theorist like my son. And, you know, you can do the same thing in as a Christian. I've experienced this all my Christian life, whereas you'll say things, you know, and people will immediately take a position for or against you. If you say Jesus, people, God bless you, brother. They're on your side. But if you speak against Jesus, you've made that person, you wonder why they drop their head. Well, God bless you. I'm done with you. Or they get an attitude and say, you know, you're going to hell. You're going to end up in hell. What? That's what we do. That's what we do. All that, I can go on and on. I've watched a particular religion. They on the streets. They cuss people out. They disrespect people. Watch this. You know why they do it? Because those people are not a part of what they believe. Listen to me. And that's what we tend to do. And that is religion. That's religion. Hear me. Anytime you are extreme in what you believe to the point that you have exclusivity, watch this, and you've learned to believe that systematically, with even being brainwashed into that form of thinking, and there's no freedom of thought in that, that's religion. You have been bought into a religion. Whether God, atheist, pagan, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, that's religion. Now, is religion bad? No. Is it good? No. Watch this. Watch this. Let me give it back to you. I'm going to read it back to you. Religion in the extreme becomes the danger of religion. Extreme religion is dangerous. This is religion by force with very little or no freedom. So when there is no freedom, or very little. When there's extreme, that's dangerous religion. Listen to this. When religion is done with freedom of the individual and proper balance, it can be beneficial to the adherents. Religion is most dangerous, okay, when it is forced upon a person. Now let's look at, and we could see that. We could talk about religion in the sense of the danger of religion. We could talk about from Jim Jones to David Koresh to the space guys, to modern religions today. Even the latest was David Taylor and his church. And we could talk about Scientology, and we could talk about so many religions that up and coming. I'm going to be doing sessions and teachings on these groups and on religion in that sense. But I'm dealing with it from a general perspective, right? Well, what you're looking at when you look at these groups, you're looking at extremism. But yet, you don't hear nothing about those people whose lives were affected by religion, and they're doing very well. I'm going to give you an example, right? This was what made me look at this from a whole different perspective. I'm going to use myself as an example because, see, if you don't have certain experiences, you can't really grasp certain things. Okay. And this is where when I talk to people to this day, they find it hard to believe. I had posted something like last night about my father working for a big drug dealer and the experience I had with my father going to New York and Harlem. I was literally around drugs all the time. I literally saw it. I literally learned how to pack. I knew that I was in the car with my daddy a lot. There were times that be in the car with my daddy and I'd be sitting in the front. He made me like I'm the king. Like he's the boss, I'm the second boss. And I was only like 7 to 10 years old. And I remember they get in the car and they back there doing their thing, whether they packing it, buying it from him, and they start. Hey, my dad turned around. Hey man, my son in the car. No, oh, okay, yeah. I'm sorry, man. I have those experiences, right? Well, I came up in a drug environment. My mother alcoholic, came up around alcoholics, drug addicts, but I never did drugs in my life. Never snorted cocaine. Now later, as I got older, after my late 40s, I smoked marijuana. I've done that several times between the age of 48 and I'm 51. Okay, so you figure you can see it. Before then, I never smoked even marijuana. Okay, smoked a cigarette and I was like, what's the big deal? One time when I was about 14 years old. Okay, so I didn't even have a girlfriend until I can't even remember. Well, I did have girlfriends. I had a girlfriend when I was younger. We almost had sex, but we didn't. Twice. I had 2 girlfriends I almost had sex with, but I didn't. So I wasn't sexually promiscuous. Here's my point. All throughout my teen years. Like I'm with my wife now. We are 15 years apart. And I said to her, do you know, if when I was 15, I'm not sure if I could make a baby then, but I know it when I was 16 because that's the first time I masturbated. And I said to her, do you know if I could make a baby at 15, I would have a child your age? I was like, but anyway, but I never, during all my teen years, even in my early 20s, never did drugs, was not sexually promiscuous. There's a lot of things I didn't do. Well, the more I kept looking at my life, now watch this, because some of y'all still fighting against it. You rationalizing. The reality is, the largest influence on my decisions of not doing those things was my religion. I was Christian. Wasn't just Christian. I came from holiness Pentecostal. You better not be coming up in there talking about you got a girlfriend and y'all messing around. They'll lay you on the altar and lay hands on you and throw the whole bottle of oil on you. You better not be walking around messing around with the girls. You get the holy slap out of you. They mess. Y'all better come on. But watch this. I was afraid of hell. I didn't want to go to hell. I ain't messing around like that. I remember I can name several stories. I can tell you many stories right now. that females I had opportunities with, and I had the fear of God. And it was almost like, this is what kind of helped me come out of that, because I ain't gay. I'm not going to be gay. When I was a teenager, oh no, that ain't no option for me. I ain't going to never. I had a homosexual who tried to touch me. Listen to me. I jumped back. I said, you do that one more time, knock you in your face, man. I'll never forget. I was about 21 years old. And I would be coming to work this way and he'd be going this way. And we'd always see each other. Hey, how you doing, man? I always preach to him. I talked to him about Jesus, whatever. He'd go to church and he'd say, yeah, Jesus, this and that. I'm not picking on homosexual. I'm just trying to be descriptive of what he was like. He had long hair and all this. So he never, really hit on me. And this one time, he decided he gonna hit on me. And it was the closest I ever came to really knocking a darn homosexual out. He literally touched my penis at my pants. And I went off on him. But never, no, homosexual. Celibacy, I thought about it, but I was like, I can't see myself celibate. So I just lived a pure Christian life, right? Here's my point that I'm making. Drugs, alcohol, sexual promiscuity. I was not an alcoholic. I didn't even drink when I was younger. I didn't drink beer, none of that. I was very healthy. I'm 52 now, and you can see my figure. I don't know if you can see me fully, but I'm not overweight. I don't have no major health problems. I ran track. I was healthy in my 20s, 30s, and even in my 40s. When I looked over my life, I had to realize it was because I was a Christian. Now, there are some of you who are fighting this so hard. You're like, yeah, that's just because of the decision I made. And that's true. But you made that decision because of the things that you were told. You made that decision because of the things that you were taught. Thou shalt not. Whatsoever man sow, that shall he reap. You're going to go to hell if you do this. Now, we ain't challenging whether it's true or not, or with this and that. I'll get to that later. But my point is, okay, you established a certain lifestyle and decisions based on your influence by your religion. And that fact alone means religion can be for the good. I don't care what nobody say. You can't take that experience from me. I've analyzed it for years and thought, okay, what about my mother? What about my grandmother? Well, my grandmother had an influence on me. She was a pastor. Come on. She read the Bible every day. I saw her. Two things I seen my grandmother do ritually: read the Bible and pray. Every night, read the Bible and pray. Okay. So again, it reinforces. I used to go to church with my grandmother. My grandmother ordained me in the ministry, took my hand and ordained me into the ministry. Listen to me. I preached my grandmother's funeral. Oh, religion. Watch this. Watch this. My grandmother used to always say, I want to do what is right. I adapted that from her. I want to do the right thing. My grandmother was the one that made me more conscious of doing the right thing in the way you treat people. She used to say to me and my niece, and I always saw she never played any games with playing favorites. My mother tried to whip me in front of my grandmother. My grandmother grabbed my mother, said, "Get your hands off this child. Don't you touch this child." She went off on my mother. My mother backed off from me. I was like, my grandma saved me from butt whipping. I've seen her treat people fair. And so that influenced my thinking in a lot of ways. You see, well, she told me stories how she grew up in the church. She told me the stories how the church poisoned her parents who were pastors. She told me how she was about to die and how God raised her up. She told me all the many stories. Religion. See, so let me say this, and I'm not going to be too much longer. Watch this. Religion has some good benefits. Okay. There are people who are dead to this day. Dead to this day. Okay. That had they been a part of a religion, they would be alive. One of the reasons I had to look at the Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan, I had to say, them brothers out there doing their thing. There are brothers who are suited up in bow ties, selling Final Call, bean pies. They're going to the mosque. that at one time they were drug addicts, drug dealers, street thugs, walking around like, and here they are now with some discipline in their lives, eating healthy, doing the right thing. They ain't poisoning their community. They ain't robbing and stealing. That's religion, brother. How do you hate something that benefits your community? The reality is, for many of you in your community, if there was no Nation of Islam, you would have got raped by the very guy that they recruited into the Nation of Islam. And the reason he started raping women, I'm a Muslim now, brother. I don't do that no more. You could have been on his target list. Your daughter could have been the next victim. I'm going to keep it real. Of that dude who decided to be a Christian and to get his life right. That's all religion. And we got to stop acting like religion has no good. It ain't nothing good about it. Yes, it is. You can't say, well, it's Christian. Well, it's Muslim. No. This is other deception. I'm going to rebuke y'all Christians right now. This is the other controversy I have. Wait a minute. Because see, you could think that being a Christian, we're the only ones living right. That's the kind of concepts that I've heard. We're the only ones living right. Or we serve the true and living God. It doesn't matter if you serve the true and living God. Because if you living wrong, if you living wickedly, when they lock your behind up, they don't care what you Christian, Muslim. You go out there and shoot somebody in the head, kill somebody, they ain't going to say, okay, we're going to have a little grace on you and because you Christian and y'all serve the living God. No, fool. But here's the other concept I had to look at. We were not the only ones living right. See, this is why they want you to stay in that box of thinking in religion. You get out and you start doing business with Muslims. Because I started doing business with Muslims. Heaven sent fragrances. I started my own oil business, selling oils. Did business with a Muslim brother. Not one time did he disrespect me and my religion. He knew I was a Christian. I'd come to, hey, how you doing, man? Buy my oils. He didn't proselytize me. He didn't say, man, you need to come on down to the mosque and this and that, and you need to stop this Jesus stuff. Oh, no. He knew I was a radical. He respected me, brother. I can go on and tell you of many who, but if you think and stay in that ideology to think that, oh, yeah, we're the only ones living right. No, you're not. There are Muslims. I can tell you many stories of, I have a good Muslim friend. I've ate with his family. I've done work for him. And that man lives right. I've known many other religions. They live right. They have codes in their religions of righteousness, ethics, and morals. Listen to me. I was shocked when I found out that the reason Hindus don't eat meat, they don't believe in killing. That's why they don't eat meat. Did you know that? The reason they don't believe in killing. Think about that for a minute. But see, mainstream fundamentalists will have you to think, oh no, they're going to hell. Look, they worship the devil. See, don't let people label other people, cause you to label other people unrighteously. You don't know them like that. How you going to condemn a whole group of people to hell? How you going to condemn a whole group of people that they don't know God? You don't know what I know a pastor who literally said he went to Asia and he said, I'm not going to them temples where demons are. Hold on. You ain't never been in those temples. How would you know demons are in them? But I thought you were supposed to be so powerful with the name of Jesus and casting out devils. You ain't supposed to be afraid to go in them temples anyway. So I saw the hypocrisy of religious fundamentalism. And I got tired of it. I've seen it a lot all through years and years and years. I've seen people mistreated because of religion. I've seen Christians mistreat Muslims, Muslims mistreat Christians. I've been threatened. I've been attacked by Christians because I didn't believe exactly the way they want me to or they believe. I've been attacked by Hebrew Israelites and debates and all this stuff. Listen to me. Called all kinds of names. Not because I lied to somebody, not because I kicked your mama, not because I cursed your sister, not because I robbed you, not because I raped your aunt, not because I did anything, I didn't break in your house, all because I don't believe what you believe. That is extreme fundamentalist religion. That's the worst part of it. That's the bad stuff. Come out of that. Listen to me. The hardest thing for us to do in religion, just the hardest thing, and that's why I'm committed to the eclectic way. Listen to me. The hardest thing for us to do in religion is to love one another in spite of our differences. That's the challenge. It's easy to get all the people together around you. You black, let's all the black people get together. And you Christian, you believe in Christianity, you believe in Jesus, let's all get together. Okay, you got to be black, you got to love Jesus, you got to know Jesus, you got to be willing to worship, and you got to say you are Baptist or Presbyterian or whatever, and then we can all get together and we all gonna love God. Ha, 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 we're gonna worship God. Now, I'm not saying I'm God, but if you worship me with that attitude, I'll probably go like this. Get on out of here. You know why? I didn't just make you so that I can just love you. If my son rallied and got all my sons together and they all came to me and said, Dad, we love you and we're your only kids. And my daughter called me and said, Dad, my brothers don't have nothing to do with me. I said, why? Because they said I'm not your daughter. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And they're going to tell me that they're boys and you only like the boys better than me. If my daughter came to me and said that, I said, hold on. I ain't for go to my son. Boy, don't you ever divide against your daughter. I'm her father just as much as I'm yours. Listen to me. And I believe that's God's attitude towards us when we take this superior position in religion and say, I'm better than them. We're the sons of God. Anytime I see that, this superior thinking that we are and they're not, there was a scripture, I've read it over and over. I read several scriptures through the years that kept getting my attention and God was using it my attention. I just read it the other day, brought it back to me. Bam! Like it hit me, like, yeah, this is it. And it said, watch this line. It said, Christ is all and in all. This scripture haunted me and kept following me for over 25 years. I knew of the scripture. I read it over and over several times and kept ignoring it. God brought it back to me. Because, you're taught not to believe that. But it's in your Bible. You're taught not to believe things that's right there in your face in your Bible. Christ, it says, this is in Colossians 3. I believe Colossians 3:16. Y'all don't believe me. I'm going to read it. Colossians. Now I'm going to show y'all a little trick. Show you something. I didn't intend to go this way, but I'm doing it because I had I wanted to point this out to show you. Okay. 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 Nope, that's not it. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 minute. Okay. It's Colossians, the 3rd chapter, the 11th verse. It says, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all. I'm going to give you that scripture again. Colossians, the 3rd chapter, the 11th verse. Then it says, because of this, watch this. It says, but Christ is all and in all. It didn't say in you all. Because I think for years I carried that scripture thinking it's saying in you all. And that means that he's talking to the church at Colossae. No. He said Christ. And then watch this. This is what's interesting of the text. He lists who he's talking about. He says Greek, Jew, opposites. He said circumcision, opposites. He said barbarian, Scythian. He said bond, free. He said Christ is all, universal Christ. Watch this. And in all. This thing messed with me for years. It wasn't until I came into the eclectic way. Listen to me. Okay? That I begin to see, wow, it is true. God is in all. I will dwell in them. I will walk in them. I will put my laws in their heart. We're going to talk about that. Right there in Romans chapter 1, it verifies. Oh, now I'm getting ready to go into something else. But that's what I wanted to point out to you. Right? So how do you have a religion that says God is in us, but not in you? When the Bible right here says it, Christ is all and in all. It didn't say Jesus. See, that's where you confused. Now I'm a hold right there because I want y'all got to tune into my teachings. I'm getting a little too deep on that one. That's a whole different teaching. Let me conclude. Let me keep this going. We're talking about religion and how the negative effects of religion. Watch this. So we see system rituals. If we see religion in a good sense and not limited to a religious organization, we will find that most countries are built upon religion. Anytime you have a criminal justice system, you have religion. Any corporation with a set of bylaws and policies is acting as a religion. Any manner of systematic processional organization is religion. Okay? Now watch this. The laws are systematically organized. These laws or laws are systematically organized. Okay? Here's the 3 things I'm going to close with. Okay? The 3 benefits or categories of what I will call of religion. The 3 categories of benefits of religion. I'm going to close with this. Order and organization. Now, I've said to you, I used the term and said the eclectic way. Okay. That is what a movement, a name, and an order that God has given me that has a history to it. Okay. That name only exists from me. I'm the founder of Christ Eclectic Church and the Eclectic Movement. And if you want to know more about who are the eclectics, what that is encompassing, hit me up. The number one thing God began to show me was the order of Mayat. Okay? The order of Mayat. Listen to me carefully. And that has become our constitution and our order. We live by it, right? Okay? The order of Mayat requires there to be order. Okay? Order. What is the order of Mayat? Justice, order, balance. Listen to me. Justice, order, balance. And the other word is harmony. Okay? Now, as the founder of Eclectic Church, it is my job and duty to make sure that everything we do in our church and our ministry is according to those laws. Justice, order, balance, and harmony. Did you get that? So one of the things is order and organization. Okay. Without there is chaos. The ancient ancestors, going way back to the founders of nations, the teachers of kings, they taught the world how to organize. They had a principle, and the principle was you have to destroy Isfet. Now they've interpreted later, we see that as Satan as an actual spirit. No, Isfet is not an actual demon or Satan himself. No, it is not. But it was symbolized by a serpent. And Isfet was the symbol of chaos. So when you saw them on a ship with a rod, sticking it through a serpent, which was called Isfet, listen to me carefully. It represented their purpose of the kingdom is to stop chaos, destroy chaos. Chaos comes when there's no order and organization. And let me keep this clear. One of the main benefits of religion is order and organization. Most of you, oh man, this I can do this as a part 2. Just order and organization, because many people are not used to order in their lives. Let me keep this real. I love my wife. I thank God for her. She has improved and come a long way in the years we've been married. But when I married her, I realized something. She was never a part of religion. She come from a background where she was adopted, and her life was one home to the next home, one family to the next family. Well, what that does to a child is it keeps them in a place of lacking order and organization in their lives. You get where I'm going? And so, one of our struggles in the first few years of us being together, we have some headbutts, but we've learned how to adapt now, and she's changed a lot. I have learned, even in something chaotic, I've learned to have some manner of organization. You don't block walkways. You don't do this. I have some rules of order. If you drop something, clean it up. Don't leave mess around. Don't leave food. Don't do. So I have some kind of, there are people who, they're not used to that. They had no sense of any institution they were a part of that built their lives around order and organization. And so they do whatever they want to do. What brought my attention to the need of religion and this first one was to see young people. I've worked with youth for years, and I've literally saw young people who come from homes that don't teach them order, organization, don't teach them respect. Come on. Don't teach them reverence. I've seen grown folk in church that never taught this. I've seen some really, really undisciplined children who were highly rebellious and didn't know how to maintain themselves. So when people see my kids, I'm not boasting. They go, wow, he 2 years old. He don't bother with stuff. And I tell them, we teach them. Wow. They know how to say thank you. They ask what they say. Thank you, sir. They say, sir, man. They see my kids. That's because we teach them those things. Whereas we don't go along with the concept of you just let a child be a child and do what they want to do. No, not in my house. No, my kids have a discipline. Listen to me. And so you can see kids who don't. See? And our caretaker was just telling me the other day how, she loves our kids. She said, your kids are my favorite. She keeps kids. And she tells the experience of how my kids don't touch none of her stuff around the house. And I explained to her why they don't do it. I explained to her that's not because they just were born that way. All kids are naturally born to experiment and touch things just randomly. We teach them at home. I told her this setup I'm doing right now, this is a TV studio setup, right? This is on a half, one third, 1/4 of the living room. Well, right over there, right here is my kid's plate, my youngest son playpen, has a zipper. He comes out of it. And over there is the living, and they had their toys out here. And I can leave them. I can leave them in this living room all day. They will not touch this camera. They will not come over here where there's audio equipment. There are wires over here. There's this laptop. And I can sit in my room and let them roam in this living room and play with their toys. They won't go in the kitchen. They won't open that door. And how old are they? One is 1 year old and the other one is 2 years old. So you figure that out. What does that come from? That comes from taking the time to teach them and disciplining them. That comes from having order and teaching them organization. You understand that? My son knows when he finished eating, he gets to where he'll take his plate and he'll try to put it in the sink. But one time he broke the plate because he was, not that we told him to do that, but he just watched and see what we do and he tries to do it. So I had to tell him, no, son, leave it there. I'll get it later. That's another lesson he'll learn later. But they have an order of knowing when he finished eating, he knows he don't roam in the kitchen. He comes right back in here. He says, Daddy, potty, poopy, or he'll tell his mother or me, and then the youngest one, now he'll roam, but he knows now certain things not to mess with. Now he goes, as he get older, they not, But here's my point that I'm making with that illustration. You've got to train children to understand order, boundaries, organization. You can't just have children do anything. Do you understand? I watched a YouTube video. If you raise children, let them do what they want to do. I'm sitting there and I said to my wife, I said, look at these damn dummy parents. They are harming their own children by letting a child do what they want to do. I watched a child run into a damn wall, bam, and a parent just stood there watching the child in the house, not teaching the child anything. Watch another child go up to a goat, stomp his feet. That's the first sign. You don't do that to a goat. And then go up to the gate and go like this to the goat. Rah! And the goat came and said, bam, knocked that kid 3 feet away from that gate. I had more than 3 feet. And I said to myself, when you don't discipline your children, you're literally putting them in harm's way to harm themselves or for something or someone else to harm them. So you have to have a system in your home of order and organization, a system in your life. I better move on to the next one because this alone, I can just go on and on and on. Watch this. Here's the second one, which goes along with the first one. Number 2, systems of learning, community support, justice, and social accountability. Do you know, let me say this. If it wasn't for churches, I'm not going to say Christianity, I'm going to say churches, and mainly Black churches, we would probably be still in slavery. Black people would still be in slavery. Let you think about that for me. Did you know Harriet Tubman was a part of the AME Church? Did you know the Quakers were opposed to slavery? So much so that they tried to fight against it. They were getting opposition and they saw it was defeating. They left. I found out the Quakers were here in Georgia. This was their first establishment. They left Georgia to go to Pennsylvania, to the country of Pennsylvania in the north, because they were so against slavery. God bless our Quaker brother and sisters. And by the way, they did a lot of writings as well as support against slavery. You hear what I'm saying? That's religion, people. Why y'all can't see that? Why y'all so opposed to religion, not realizing that it was religion that broke the bonds of slavery? Huh? Name anybody who was a great fighter for justice in the Black community from slavery all the way up to the civil rights movement. And if you name 5 of them, I guarantee you 4 or all of them had Christianity as their religion. Now listen to me. From Dr. King, Sojourner Truth, She was an evangelist. That's why her name was Sojourner Truth. She was a Christian evangelist. I'm not promoting Christianity, but this was a religion. I keep going and on. But watch this. I was shocked. I'm not going to get into details of the story, but let me just give you this. So I was doing a food program at my church, and I'm responsible for taking the van and the trailer to go out to this huge Christian company that actually gets food and distribute it to churches. Bring it back. I unload it. So one day I was unloading, and I looked, and it had a label on it on one of the food packages that said something about sponsored by the Mormon Church, thank you, or something like that. I said, what? I said, the Mormon Church gives this food out. Oh, okay. This is the first time. So probably a year or two later, this was probably about 3 years ago, maybe 3 years. There was a controversy, I'm going to call out names, of Bishop J. Drew Sheard. Y'all look this up. That he wanted to work together with the Mormon Church, okay, for the food program. I found out later that they are I found out that they are the largest food distribution church or organization in America. Yeah. Well, he wanted to align with them. Organization, the Church of God in Christ came against him. He backed off, stepped down. He president. Okay. Here's my point. If somebody's hungry, do you think the hungry person cares whether it's the Mormon that gives them that food, or whether it's the Church of God in Christ, or whether it's the Muslims, or whether it's Hebrew Israelite? No. That man on the corner is starving to death. He ain't going to ask you, man, I'm hungry. Can you feed me? What's your religion is before you give me that food? Because if you ain't a Christian, I don't want it. No. Who does that? If you lay down on the street dying, do you care? Come on, the story of the Good Samaritan. That's why I was told. Do you care whether it's a Jew that helps you versus a Christian versus a Muslim? Here's where religion comes in. Watch this. Religion has been used as a system for community support. This is why we can go into talking about why we need the state sponsoring or giving the church sponsorship for tax exemption and nonprofit entity. This is why they uphold that. Because do you realize that the church is, and we could honestly say the church supports most communities more than even the government. Listen to me. And you could say the church is the second largest entity that gives community support next to the government. If that old lady don't get her Social Security check, she can go to a church and get food. Hear me. And sometimes some churches will even help her pay her bills. I've seen organizations, churches that do that. Okay. That's all religion. The Catholic Church does the same thing. If I'm correct, we have here the monastery is here. And if I'm correct, they have a large food program. And there's something else they do. I forgot exactly, but they have a large food program. See, just because you don't align with their religious principles, see, that ain't got nothing to do with how they help the community. There are people who don't care what religion they are. They don't care what religion you are. So religion can be a system of learning, community support, justice, and social accountability. Yeah. And the last one, and I'm going to close with this, personal development. Personal development. Religion is good for personal development. I gave you my story as an example, and I have known, I can name some right now that I know right now. And, I've known women who, they were hoes. I'm just keeping it real. And they became a Muslim or a Christian, and they tightened up. They changed their life. And of course, it goes backwards. There are some women I know who were Christian. And this tells you a lot. They grew up Christian, extreme. They get older, they become hoes. I'm just keeping it real. I've known those who didn't grow up Christian, or they went to church a little bit when they were young, and they became a hoe, and then they became a Christian. They stopped hoe hopping. Same thing in Islam. Same thing with other religions. In other words, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's not judge all religions to be wrong, bad, or evil. Let's look at the fruit. Jesus said, by their fruit you will know them. A bad tree don't produce good fruit, and a good tree don't produce bad fruit. So if you're going to judge by the fruit that's being produced. Judge by righteous judgment. Are they touching lives, changing lives, helping people to live better? You get where I'm going. There are religions that if you follow them or follow that religion, you'll live a long life and a healthy life. I look at Louis Farrakhan. I said, that man, how old? I think Louis Farrakhan, 92. I said, what? Listen to me. He took care of himself through the years. See, most don't even get close to that. Him, my grandmother, the old school, they took care of themselves. There are religions that major in health, and you'll live a long life being a part of that religion. But make sure those extreme fundamental things that can counteract and work against that, they don't possess. In other words, you don't want to be a part of a religion that, they're about health and nutrition, and they got all these good things. But over here, y'all doing criminal activity. That can undermine all the good. Don't be a part of a religion that's teaching you to do good, but all those other things that are extreme that undermines the good. What good is it to love Jesus and be racist? You're a part of a religion that love Jesus, but you don't like black people. You speak against black people. You're racist. Come on. See, that's how you determine what religion you're going to, because it's a lot of religions. And if not, most likely all of them are doing good deeds. So don't let that be the criteria of determining whether I'm going to be a part of this religion or not. My point is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We do need religion. Religion is good and it is bad. Religion is good in the sense of the person who beholds or who is committed to that religion, as well as the religion itself. So you judge yourself, watch this, and you judge that religion to determine the good or the bad. Because, watch this, you sit up there and you judge churches or religion, but you could be so corrupt inside that when you become a part of that religion, that's when that religion gets corrupt. So you could be bringing corruption into a church, corruption into Islam, corruption. So you guard yourself. You ask yourself before you judge a church or another person and say whether they're asking, where's my heart? Can I love a Muslim? What if I had a choice to marry? I'm a Christian. I'm a dedicated Christian, and a Hindu woman fell in love with me, or a Hindu woman was interested in me. Would I marry her? If you say no because she's Hindu, then you got a problem with your heart. She wasn't born, she was born practicing Hindu, but that doesn't mean she was born a Hindu. Nobody's born a Christian. There's no such thing as born a religion. When you're born, you don't have nothing. You don't have nothing on your booty. You ain't got a diaper on. You don't know what the hell to believe. You don't know what believing is. See? So nobody's born a religion. God made us free. And we need to respect each other's freedom, love each other beyond that freedom. Christ is all and in all. That's Colossians 3:11. Till next time, God bless you. See you again.